great for the partnership with both John and Roger and his team. And so with that, I'll introduce our senior architect, Shane Kleinert, who co-leads up our end user compute practice. And he's going to kind of kick this off with him and John, and then bringing in Roger for the demo. So guys, thanks for joining.
Awesome, Brian. Thank you so much. And you hit on so many key things of the choice culture there. And one of the things I love is really being, with us being kind of a boutique organization, really focused around end user computing. You had mentioned, being at the bleeding edge, and we've done that with a lot of technologies over the years. And one key one is ControlUp. And so we've done that with, Palo Alto, Nutanix, VMware, Citrix, but ControlUp really that journey started back in 2014. Believe it or not, it was actually met out at Citrix Summit, met Yoni, the CTO and founder, one of the founders of ControlUp. And we were one of the first kind of technologists at the time to really get involved with the product. It was just blown away by just the real-time aspect, being able to, light up an entire environment. Control was super unique how it ran in memory, and will light up an environment like, within every 3 seconds it was sampling data. That was just unheard of, right? Traditional solutions were every 3 to 5 minutes, and so it really just changed the game. And from there, we just became super passionate about it. I actually used to fly around with Yoni before ControlUp was just getting into the U.S. To go to the different VMUGs and things like that. I was his booth babe for quite a time, helping out and stuff. And just through the years, it was an early advisor, and then also as ControlUp expanded from just a VDI DAS use case, which you're going to hear a lot about. John's going to do a great job with Roger, really talking to how ControlUp's expanded far beyond just VDI DAS, really getting down to the edge into the apps and the overall employee experience. We were able to help advise through the years, and most recently being a part of their technical council as well, which is super exciting. So really passionate about the technology. As Brian mentioned, co-lead up the EUC practice. So we're really strong in Microsoft Azure, Citrix, but have expanded our practice well beyond just Citrix. Obviously, that's bread and butter, but we've expanded to AVD, AVD plus Nerdio, Microsoft Cloud PC. We work with Parallels, and that's one of the great things about ControlUp is it's really agnostic from an EUC monitoring standpoint. Because and also looking at things like enterprise browser, Intune, and getting down to the edge is how do you monitor that experience when you're looking at it holistically from a user standpoint? You really have to truly understand the whole estate. It's not just a one EUC play story anymore. Companies are starting to expand into different areas that make sense based on the use case, and you want to have a solution that can monitor that. So excited to be here, excited to talk through that. Definitely come with questions. We'll be monitoring the chat as we go. And with that, go ahead and hand it off to John. He's going to take us through with ControlUp here. John here is going to take us through kind of what is this digital employee experience. Really, I mean, what's phenomenal here is, I mean, ControlUp really invented that space. It's always similar to like Nutanix with hyperconverged, right? You kind of invent the space, and that's really what ControlUp did. And so, John, go ahead and take it away, and we'll be here. I'll be adding some color through the presentation, and then Roger will be kicking it with the demo. So appreciate
Perfect.
y'all.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Shane,
Yeah.
and Brian for the introductions and the partnerships. I've been with ControlUp personally for about 4 years, and I've been working with the technology for close to 10, or 7 or 8 with ControlUp. It's a great product. I've been in the EUC space for about 30 years, and it's one of the few technologies I've ever seen that has continually evolved from its beginnings in a VDI space to an entire enterprise conversation to really help our customers get a handle of how their users interact with technology, right? So real quickly, I'll just do a quick introduction of myself and Roger on the team here. So my name is John here, channel director with ControlUp. So I manage a partnership with Choice, and I've been with ControlUp about 4 years. And Roger Colvin, who'll be doing the demo for us here, has been here much longer than me, but we've also actually worked at 3 companies together. So I'm not sure if Roger's sick of seeing me yet, but I'm not going anywhere yet. So, but yeah, so just a quick agenda. We'll go through, talk about DEX. What is digital employee experience? I know it's a fairly new term in the industry, but we've been talking about this at ControlUp since the very beginning, and it's in our DNA of helping organizations understand how technology interacts with their end users. So we'll kind of talk about what DEX really is and what it means, and not only from a control perspective, from the industry as well. Talk about some of the IT challenges and things that we see organizations going through on a regular basis, and the evolution of how IT is impacting the enterprise, right? Talk about why DEX matters, who and in the organizations and within the IT organizations, and also the business side of the business, um, uh, understand why that really matters to them and why it's an impactful thing to focus on. We see more and more companies getting into DEX projects and really taking a focus on how that digital employee experience happens. And we'll review our platform. I think the ControlUp platform is amazing, and what you can not only visualize and see from your organization, but also actionably interact with those end users and fix problems and automation. You'll see, what our solution looks like. It's a very simple solution to not only deploy but use. Right, you don't have to learn some new language to be able to leverage our solution. And just talk about what a DEX strategy looks like in an organization. As we see these organizations go through DEX journeys and develop these DEX strategies, not only having a DEX platform, but understanding all those underlying, connective tissues about how the organization works. So first off, I also want to recognize again, Choice has been an amazing partner with ControlUp for over 10 years. I think you're probably the oldest partner in the United States. And Shane's been a huge proponent of ControlUp, since he's seen it back in the old days. If you look at really where ControlUp started, we were a reseller and consulting company around Citrix way back in the day, and our founders found challenges working with customers and trying to even deploy Citrix, right? Since they wrote the product that has now become ControlUp. So the real core use of where ControlUp came from were challenges that they saw within customers, and they started writing tools. And Choice has been doing the same thing for much longer than we have. I've been working with Choice for almost 15 years now. I lived in St. Louis for a long time and had an opportunity to work with Brian and Jim and Dana and everybody, when I first got into the software space about 15 years ago. And it's been a great journey to maintain that relationship and work with Choice over the years. They have some top-notch technologists in their teams, and amazing folks, and amazing organization to work with. So appreciate you all being here today with us. So we kind of talk about digital employee experience, and if you've ever heard the term before, I think it's really good to just kind of start with the baseline, which is what is digital employee experience, and is really understanding the quality of your users' interaction with the technology of an organization, right? So how do people interact with all of the ones and zeros that an organization puts out there? I've been doing this for next year will be 30 years I've been in IT. My first job was rolling out Windows 95, right? And back then we were lugging around monitors and computers, but everything was hardwired, everything was connected. You had full control over everything that was happening back then, right? You had a desktop or a laptop plugged into a cable, plugged into a wall, and it connected to all your applications back in the data center on the first floor, right? So back then it was fairly easy to understand how everything connected, because it literally connected. Now, not only do we have a lot of flexibility in how people are working, whether that's at home or on the road, or flexible cubes, or using Wi-Fi throughout an enterprise campus, but also the technology that you're accessing, the applications and everything else is not only in the cloud, but may not be even controlled by your organization. It's a SaaS solution or it's a DaaS solution. The more complex those things get, and the less control you have over those things, it becomes more important that you can see how that stuff connects, and also understand, from a productivity standpoint, if your employees are interacting with technology on a daily basis, and that is the core foundation of how they're productive, whether that's a line worker or a help desk employee, or a call center, or even marketing, or anybody in an organization. How their day goes is very important, and it's very hinged on how the technology is working with that user, right? So everything from that laptop to the desktop to all of the backend data center stuff, and then you get into all the cloud components, which just drives that variability up so much higher. And so that's what digital employee experience is: understanding how people are interacting with those technologies. We put the person in the very center, and so our approach is we look at everything everything from the end user perspective, right? I'm sure you've seen traditional monitoring solutions out there for data centers and things like that, where it just shows you speeds and feeds of things that are going on within your hardware and your data center, but it doesn't really tell you the story, right? It doesn't tell you the story of how those technologies are interacting with people, and that's really where ControlUp comes in. Is not only understanding, but then being able to make actionable decisions on how you're going to architect things in the future, and then also how to better employees' experience within the organization and how they interact with technology. Um, First thing I want to show you here is so 2 years in a row, ControlUp's been named as a leader in the Magic Quadrant for digital employee experience. So this came out last year, and I think that's where you're seeing a lot more of the buzz. Is the industry has identified digital employee experience as a major category of how IT interacts with people. So ControlUp, you can see here, we're up in the top right-hand corner. Second year in a row. This year, they added in some of the VDI components to digital employee experience, and it really shot us up. But we were in the quadrant last year as well. And I'll pull up real quick. I'll put this link in the chat later on too. But if you want to download the report off our website, you can go out there and download the report. So I'll put that in the chat while Roger is demoing, so you have that for future reference too. But yeah, we're really proud of this. It's been a very interesting time over the last 2 years. I've never been involved in an organization where a quadrant was created around them, right? I've seen how the cloud became and VDI came, and DEX seems to be the next iteration of that too. So we're really happy to be here. Okay, so why does DEX matter? Why does digital employee experience matter? It's really understanding and identifying the measurable impacts across the business. How IT interacts with employees and how that all drives the business function, right? Understanding what your business culture is, understanding where your business is trying to achieve, short term and long term, but how do those things interact with IT and employees? Employees and technology are symbiotic nowadays, right? You can't do one with the other, right? I know we're going into an age of AI, right? Where we may not be of much use anymore, especially old guys like me. But right now, it's a matter of how people and technology interact to help drive the business goals that you're looking at in your organizations. Right? It's the linchpin, right? It's really understanding how all of these things are coming in. Technology sprawl. You're seeing AI really permeate the organizations in the world right now. You see these trends over time, and understanding how the technology changes and how it impacts your business and how it impacts your end users, not only from a culture standpoint, but also from a productivity standpoint. There's so many different facets of this that enter our day-to-day operations. Whether you're in a small company or a large enterprise, these things are going to be there. So understanding how that works is very, very important. Right. And you look at the evolving digital workspace. And I think in the past, when you thought about digital workspace, it was really VDI, right? You thought about, a virtualization platform or something, but really the digital workspace means that you're working on a keyboard, right? You're working on a screen, and understanding that people have much more flexible work models. I can't remember a week where I worked at my desk the entire week, and that's the only place I worked. Right? It's either going to a meeting or maybe going to a coffee shop, or I'm on the road quite a bit personally. But even in my own home, when I work from home, I'm either working in my office or in a different room. If I go into an office, it's amazing how much flexibility you have in your life nowadays. I remember just going into a conference room and being unable to open up a laptop and connect, right? You're like, who's got the Ethernet cable? And now you can pretty much just walk around with a laptop and function, 24 hours a day. And you think about these transformations in compute, and how that has continually changed how we do business, and how we interact with the technology organizations. And then you start looking at the IT teams and all the tools that you have at your disposal, right? I've been on a help desk. I've done it for many years in the past. And even back in my day, it was, I had an SCCM console, I had a Citrix console, I'd have a dozen consoles up to be able to help my employees that would call me for assistance, and trying to be able to just open all of those things and have access to them, especially for something that might be an edge use case, right? And so what ControlUp can help you do is consolidate that stuff down to a narrow pane of glass, to be able to help your users, right? So you'll see in the demo, there's access to a lot of your other technologies that we can hook into. Not only are we very agnostic for what platforms we can support, whether that's from a physical endpoints or a virtual desktop standpoint, but the ability for us to access the information in other systems too. We can then show you things about your IT organization that most people won't have access to, right? Whether that's access connecting into, from an API standpoint, into hypervisors, into Teams, Zoom dashboards, Intune, Service Desk, all those types of things. We can give you access to all that information from a very a simple console that's a web console that you can get access everything that's interacting with an end user, right? You can see in a visual standpoint, but then drill into all of the technologies that are touching a user, right? So when Roger goes into his demo, you'll see that an end user you can tell them what device they're on, what applications they're using, and then what underlying supporting infrastructure they're accessing as well. And then we can provide the access to that information to your IT teams and also to business level folks too, right? We're starting to see when I first started with ControlUp, many years ago, the only people that really opened our console were the VDI admins, right? The help desk didn't really access it much. But now it's a web-based console. All IT folks can get access to it. And we're also seeing things like business line managers access the information, not only to understand if their employees are productive, but also understand, hey, you can start seeing trends of where technology isn't running properly or not, right? Business applications, lines of business applications, those things have very meaningful impacts into the organization. So understanding how those things are working, and and understand where your baseline is, and defining whether that you're above or below that, I can tell you pretty much how a person's day is within our product. And I think anyone that's in our world of IT, you see that there's always new challenges, right? Understanding and identifying those metrics. I think organizations have matured quite a bit. I mean, I used to get calls and it would take us 20 minutes to be able to find out that, something was broken on a device, right? You got to figure out what computer you're on, how to connect to it, and identify what the problem is. But we really work on being able to lower those first calls resolutions, and try to identify problems before they happen, being a proactive approach, even to a point where we can automate responses and automate fixes. So if we can identify what an issue is, the goal is that we can fix the problem before the user ever even notices it's happening or it's coming, right? And that could be something as simple as, a profile container blowing up and becoming too large. We can shrink that up, or dynamically moving workloads in a cloud environment for cost savings, or shutting workloads down, things like that. And also remediating, baseline configurations, right? You'll see that we have the ability of identifying security challenges and identifying a baseline within an organization. And if we see that something's not working properly, we can potentially fix it automatically. We have organizations that are running thousands and thousands of remediations on a daily basis, right? And those are things that a person would have to fix in the past, right? So understanding what the problems are, identifying them early, and then being able to have visibility and help fix those problems faster with a lower response time, and even potentially interacting with technology to the point where it's taking care of itself, right? And you don't have to have people doing all this work, and a lot of it could be repetitive too, right? So just identifying some of your top use cases or top problems that you're having, or help desk calls. I've had conversations with organizations where you literally can just look at your service desk tickets and say, hey, what are your top 10 tickets? Well, let's start working on those. Let's remove those things from the landscape, right? I mean, it used to be password resets. We don't do password resets anymore because that's all automated through some identity platform, right? And that's the same thing for a lot of these things that ControlUp can help an organization with and help users with. All right, so let's talk about your IT environment, right? What are your top challenges, right? There's resource gaps, there's talent gaps, increased costs, right? And those costs can be all over the place, from acquiring hardware to maintaining data centers to outsourcing some of your data center functionalities. I wouldn't say outsourcing, but putting that stuff in the cloud, whether that's in Azure or AWS. Identifying what those trends are and being able to inform the business of what those challenges are, right? Um, we see tons of costs out there. We see lots of tools being brought in the organization, whether that's from the IT teams or from shadow IT, right? So we have a lot of visibility into what's going on into a device and a user. And so being able to identify that stuff quickly and help you, manage those things much, much better, it'll really help you out. And then, if you look at the strategic priorities of an organization, you can help align IT with the strategic outcomes that a company's looking at, right? So really getting into the weeds, but also giving strategic advice from the admin level all the way up to the executive level. And so when you look at a DEX platform, who can benefit from it, right? It's really about IT teams, business owners, and getting into understanding how all that stuff works together. Oh, that's not a big slide. Apologize there. So when you look at a DEX strategy, right, we see a lot more initiatives in organization trying to identify DEX strategies. And this is where I really rely on my good partners, right? Really good partners like Choice that understand how businesses and technology interact, right? So a good DEX strategy is really identifying, what your current state is, right? Aligning with that business objectives. There's a lot of times where I see organizations are spending money in one way or the other, but they're not really aligned, right? They're not really putting the same focus on that business outcome, right? So understanding how those teams interact. One of the best examples I can always show or talk about is when there's a problem with VDI, right? I don't know how many times I've heard, VDI is a problem or it's an issue, and you get into a war room or you get into a conversation of where the problem is and the root cause analysis, and everyone's just doing this, right? It's the network's problem. It's a storage team. It's compute. Oh, it's the desktop team put the wrong agent there, whatever it is. There's many times that we go into organizations and companies are having struggles that are lasting for months. And within minutes, we can get ControlUp in there and have data to show where the real root cause problem is. It happens all the time. Choice can attest to this. They go to customers all the time with this product and see and identify problems and be able to resolve them pretty quickly and give advice on where to go with the organization's IT journey. So, really what we look at from a platform standpoint is doing real-time monitoring and management so we can see things as they're happening, currently. So it's not just a look in the past of what happened yesterday. We can see what's happening right now, right? Automated remediations, trying to fix problems before they become a major problem, and then really getting into a very broad set of technologies, right? We can work on just about any operating system, whether it's Linux, Mac, PC, cloud, on-prem, virtual, physical, doesn't really matter, but you have to be able to do all of those things in order to do it well. And so finally, I'll kind of end with this, which is we call it the wheel, but it simplifies what we do, right? If you look at the wheel, you got collect, connect, and correct. So if the only thing you remember about ControlUp in our platform is that we collect a lot of data, and we collect a lot of data fast. For example, within our a VDI product, we're collecting data every 3 seconds, right? 3 to 5 seconds. And then we connect those dots, right? So you can collect as much data as you want. I've seen SIMs with, hundreds of thousands of data points and log files, right? Well, when you collect that data, you got to be able to connect it and understand what's going on. And so then you can correct your problems. And in the middle of that wheel, you can see some of the technologies that we work with. We're very agnostic, whether that's on Citrix or AVD or Windows 365 or physical devices, whether that's a Chromebook, a Mac laptop, a physical PC, or other think clients and platforms out there too, like iGel and things like that. So we're very agnostic. We work with a lot of different technologies. And it's very, very simple to see. And I want you to take a look at what the product looks like. So I'm going to pass it over to Roger. He can give you a quick look at what ControlUp looks like. And then finally, the other thing I wanted to show, I'll I'll come back to this real quick after Roger does his demo, but we do have a little contest going on. I wanted to show you that you can register for a trip to Vegas. So I'm going to pass over to Roger. I'll share that video here in a few minutes after he's finished with his demo. And thank you for your time. Let me know if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
So, guys, hopefully you can see my screen. And can everyone hear me clearly?
Yep.
All right, cool beans. So the screen that I'm on now, I know probably the other panelists are horrified by me showing this screen. Well, the reason I'm showing this screen first is because to truly understand digital employee experience, I start from where we used to go. So we used to look at the machine. So these are where all of my physical machines are around the world. That's how the machines are performing. DEX is not about the machine. DEX is about the user. So here is my employee dashboard where I'm looking at the users in my environment. Let me change my time frame here to today. So this is my users in my environment today, how the users are performing. This is a 10,000 foot view of my users. I can see where I have hotspots, application crashes. If I go down into Teams, I see Teams crash today. It's for Sam. This is his laptop. This is, he's obviously, not in the US, but this is, what's happening in my environment as we speak today. Do I care about what's perfect? Probably not. Do I care what's good? Maybe. I care about poor user experience. Now, there's nothing wrong with knowing about, good things because you want to take the good with the bad, but this is looking at the people in my environment today. But I want to look at it today and want to look at it historically. Let's look over the last 30 days. This is the user experience of the people in my environment over the last 30 days. I'm gonna go back to today. Not only am I looking at it from a 10,000 foot view, if I look at the details of the users, so these are my users. This is the experience, the low score, the high score, the devices that they're on, and the common problems that they're having. So I know where to start looking. I know what to start looking at. So, for example, Martin. This is Martin's experience again today. He's had 3 incidents. He's on one device. He's using 10 web apps. He's been on a Teams call. He's been pretty productive, today. And this is a breakdown of that. So I know the whens, the wheres, the hows, the whys. I can see what was going on, where the problems are. And this can, in turn, help me be more proactive in uh, fixing problems before an end user is seen having a problem. So I'm going to use a SaaS solution as an example here. So this is just a test site, but the story behind this is what's important because as IT administrators, we may not own the SaaS solution they're going to. I'll use Salesforce, for example. You know, Choice uses it, we use it. A lot of companies use Salesforce or whatever other SaaS solution that, could be out there today. And when a user goes in and starts working on a SaaS solution and there's a problem, they're not calling um, the SaaS solution owner. They're not calling Salesforce. They're calling you, the IT admin. They want you to fix the problem, even though you don't own the problem, but we're responsible for the problem. So if I go back over to my dashboard, I can see, you know, obviously within our software, we can create synthetic tests to, constantly test the website, but it still doesn't test the end user experience on that website. So as I start talking about my users and the performance of my users and where they are and how the actual device is performing, again, I care, but I care more about the user experience. In the solution, I can look at the applications or the SaaS applications that the users are going to. So in my environment, in my test environment, I have different SaaS solutions that the end users are going to. So in this, I can see the performance from the standpoint of the experience of the user. And that's the important part. And I don't want to, go too far down this rabbit hole, but as an admin, you specify what sites or what SaaS solutions that I want to monitor for that user. This ties back in, and I'm not going to go too far down this rabbit hole, so forgive me, guys. This is for a longer demonstration. But if I go back up the rabbit hole to the user's dashboard, when I go and look at a user, so for example, Crystal Clear, she's already gone to that website, today, and she did not have a good experience when she was actually on that website. So I can see exactly the who's, the whys, the whats. She's had a pretty fair experience today. Now, do I want to go through the process of troubleshooting this? I can, but at this point in time, I'm going to keep it high level. So if you have any questions, concerns, we can always get a deeper dive demo to dive deeper into this because I only have a limited amount of time. But this piece of looking at it from, or just changing your perspective. I'm not looking at, the machine. I'm looking at the user's experience on that machine. How is the user experience going? That's DEX. That is the key to making sure that that we all have a job. Our job is to make sure that the end users are supported, the business units are supported. Well, this is one way of doing that. Now, there's a lot of new features in the software. So I'm going to change my perspective one more time. So instead of looking at it from the end user standpoint, now let's look at it from our day-to-day standpoint as an admin. So we integrate into a lot of different SaaS solutions. And one way that we do this is by a feature set in the product called Enrich. Enrich allows you as the admin to be able to integrate quickly into other ticketing solutions, or I'm going to show you here in a second integration into Intune and how our software interacts with those other solutions. So here I'm in ServiceNow, and you could be using any ITSM that's web-based in our solution. The only thing I got to do is have this web plugin and tell it what sites to monitor. And what do I mean by monitor? I have a user here, or I have a ticket here about you know this Wi-Fi notification. So when I go into that ticket, actually, oh, there we go. Sorry. When I go into that ticket, if you notice on the far right-hand side of the screen, this little widget appeared. What is this? This is the Enrich plugin that ties back into our solution. So your level one technician, when your level one technician is looking at a ticket for a user, and we see, we're actually reading that screen for a machine name. If that machine name is in our database, I literally, without leaving ServiceNow, can come over and take a look at that machine, the performance of the machine. I can run actions, either from a user standpoint or from a system standpoint. I could even do a remote shell to the machine, remote shadow, or remote control. So this gives you, the admin, the ability to quickly integrate into third-party solutions. For example, Intune. I'm in my Intune environment. I go to my devices and notice that widget is not in the far right-hand corner of the screen. But when I go down into a device, that widget pops up. And if I go over here, again, I'm now seeing information about that machine for you as the administrator doing your day-to-day job. Any questions, concerns, comments before I continue?
Yeah, I
Great.
would just like to say, Roger, on that side. I mean, I personally, Enrich is just a phenomenal addition. Originally, it was just for kind of Intune and ServiceNow, but opening it up to any SaaS platform, just as long as you have the either serial number or device name essentially in that URL string, it brings out that control of widget. And the remote control capability is awesome. If you're talking about from Intune, if you're not on the full Intune suite, you're paying an additional couple dollars a month per desktop essentially for that remote control capability, and that's built into Enrich and ControlUp. So that's pretty awesome to be able to bring that data to the actual service desk, because that's one of the challenges that we see as we work with different organizations is that the service desk has 4 or 5 different tools that they're using, and maybe they don't want to jump into another tool like ControlUp. If we can bring that data to them inside a service now where that's their day to day, that's their bread and butter, that's just a huge win. And we've seen that across organizations. So fantastic job kind of bringing that together.
Well, I wish I could take credit for it. I just take credit for showing it.
You were the lead developer. Don't listen. Don't. I know you're one of the main coders here. Okay. You don't have to. Yep, I know.
Yeah.
No, it's good stuff. And then the other piece here, what I love about the employee view that you showed is when you click into one of those and you see that timeline across the user's day is just phenomenal, right? Because that user roams between, some users roam like from, me personally, like my laptop took a crap and everyone knows I always have audio issues or challenges with the different headsets or whatever, but my laptop was having all sorts of problems and I was going to go get a new laptop and I'm like, you know what? I went and bought an iPad. And I bought an Apple, man, with what they're charging for these freaking, man, for these keyboards. This keyboard was like $400. Like good on Apple for doing that. But I've been running in a cloud PC. This session right now that we're running, I'm on my cloud PC. I've been running full time in a cloud PC. And it's great to see what that experience looks like. So Teams meetings, Zoom experience, running it day to day, using the optimization, and then being able to see, what you guys are doing here when you look at control, because we use it internally, right? We use it, and we're able to see as I roam through my day from my iPad to my individual PC, from my home Wi-Fi to the office, and see that across this timeline has been really nice.
Yeah.
It also proves the point that my Wi-Fi at the house isn't great, that my wife keeps complaining about, but I don't tell her
So,
that,
you know,
right?
with your example there, Shane, here's my user crystal clear. She's currently, working on 2 machines, physical machine, virtual machine. I can see, her experience. Obviously, Crystal is not very productive, but I can see, what's going on, the locations that she's working from. So Antioch, Tennessee. This is right outside Nashville, and that's where I'm located. So this is where my test machine is. I can see the experience of that user. Now, if I have 30 seconds, can I talk about something, the newest feature in our solution?
100%, man. You got all the
Okay.
time in the world.
All right. Cool. So, you know, again, there's a lot of feature sets here, but this is going to be um, a game changer. Hopefully the loads. There we go. So what am I showing you here? In the past, within our solution, you've always been able to use triggers to, um, you know, trigger a PowerShell, VB, or command line script. And as the majority of you on the phone know, if I can create a script, I can rule the world with it. This is taking that to the next level because what we have here is the ability not only to run things within our software, but if I go over here and quickly just do create a workflow, what you see on the left-hand side of the screen is integrations into other technologies, API calls. So we have, and this list is growing weekly about, other solutions that we're integrating with. For example, I'll use Dell here. I can look up Dell warranty information. That's not anything private. It's an open API that Dell has. Um, I can integrate into Microsoft Teams. I can integrate into OneDrive, Intune, you name it. So what I'm going to do here is show you something simple to explain something more complex. Okay. So what this is just a simple workflow that's going to query our database for any machine that has Roger in the name. So if you didn't know, I'm Roger, so it's going to look for one of my machines. And then I'm going to do the next thing, which is just open up Notepad. So what I'm going to do is bring my machine over here to the same screen, and I'm going to run that query. Now, I just, again, showing you something simple to explain something more complex. The only thing I did in my simple um, demo here was to look up a machine and run a command. Now, think about it from a different point of view. Let's say, for example, Shane is one of my employees. Shane just won the lottery, and now he's no longer going to be working with me.
I like this scenario. Keep going. Win the lottery.
And
Yeah.
I need to go through the process with HR to remove access because now he's a billionaire. He doesn't, he's not going to work with us anymore, but the business has to go on. So what you're seeing here is a list of a workflow to go in into Enter ID, disable his account, reset his password, revoke his user sessions, and send an email to HR to, fill in the blank, to complete that actual workflow. None of this that I'm showing you here has anything to do with ControlUp, but it's showing the future of what we think as an IT organization is going to want to be able to do. It gives you the ability from a single pane of glass to manage, monitor, troubleshoot, remediate issues that a year ago, 10 years ago, there was not a single solution that can do as much as we can do here. And again, this has nothing to do with our software, but because we service IT departments, these are things customers have said they wanted. They want to be able to go and do this. Now, can you do this in other solutions? Yeah, I could probably name 4 or 5, but you have to go to 4 or 5 different programs, 4 or 5 different consoles to do what we're giving you. We're giving you the ability to do from a single pane of glass. Now, I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you for your time, guys. I left some time on the clock.
Don't
So
stop now, man. That was all the cool stuff, man. Way to dangle the carrot.
this is a wet your whistle. I'm wetting the whistle.
Man,
So now
exciting
you can get
stuff.
in touch with the Choice team, or you can get in touch with ControlUp, and we can do a deeper dive into any of the things that I've shown you. And that was just the tip of the iceberg, because I'm pretty sure you're looking at the screen and you saw on the left-hand side, all those different items in a navigational window. So today we kept it at a very, very high level. Okay.
Yep. No, Roger, that's a phenomenal demo. Really, really nice job talking through kind of the key areas and really, I guess, painting a visual to what John was explaining as he talked through the digital employee experience, and also doing just a phenomenal job showing how far ControlUp has come. I mean, a lot of us, core EUC folks that are on the call here, VDI DAS was bread and butter for ControlUp, right? Being able
Yeah.
to even remember when Remote DX came out, right? Just a plug-in, right, for that endpoint, and being able to, through the virtual channel, be able to get endpoint metrics,
Yeah.
last mile metrics for unmanaged devices. Which, by the way, for pure Citrix customers, leveraging global app config service for managing CWA client on unmanaged devices or managed devices, it can now push out and manage the Remote DX plugin. So giving you true end-to-end for unmanaged devices. That's a big deal. But that's unmanaged, right? So when you get into the managed scenario, that's really where you see, ControlUp just has expanded with their ControlUp for desktops platform. And then what you did, which was really nice, is you're kind of showing it the basically the workflow capability. It's really just drawing, workflows to
Yes.
using all the capabilities that ControlUp has, right? You're able to call into the agent that's on the virtual desktop or the endpoint, right? And as you said, there's a lot of workflow tools. I mean, everyone's doing. I was in Zoom the other day, and I'm like, look at Zoom, me too over here with the workflow engine and doing all this stuff. I said, but at the end of the day, like you want to be in the tool that has all your data, right? And
Yeah.
and I think what ControlUp has done a phenomenal job with over the years is community, right? I mean, you look what ControlUp did with the script-based actions,
Hmm.
in the VDI DAS platform, in the ControlUp for control for desktops or historically Edge DX, right? And naturally, I got to imagine, obviously, with the Slack growth over, was it 9,000 users or something like that, or some
Yeah.
massive number of users, is taking that community and all the beautiful actions that were created and doing the same thing with those workflows. Because that's
Yeah.
always the challenge with those tools is like, hey, I got an engine to do a bunch of stuff, but now I got to go make all those things, right? And we didn't even touch on, Control for AI and what ControlUp is doing there. I mean, there's just a lot of
That's a lot.
capabilities of where ControlUp's going, but that I really love that when I saw the workflow engine and heard what ControlUp was going in that direction, it's a really, really nice direction for control
And
up and really can help consolidate some of
and
that stack.
a couple things here, Shane. One, I didn't go into the VDI side at all, as you just
Yep.
mentioned. Everything I showed you was, from the physical desktop side. But think about this. If you're looking at the screen here and you see all these different technologies, you have Citrix, you have Omnissa, you have, well, you have the iGel management console. You have, Citrix has its own management console. vCenter has its own management console. So especially for your level one or your level two technicians, when using ControlUp, your level one we're empowering that level one technician to be able to do more without having to learn all these different other technologies. You can go in and manage a physical desktop without having to learn another product. You go in and manage a virtual desktop without having to learn another product. Even when I showed you the API, excuse me, the workflow where we're just leveraging API commands, with that, I
This
don't
might
have
be
to.
helpful, Roger, with this visual here too. So
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So all these different technologies, you have a single pane of glass to show how you can manage those technologies. So we've been talking about the DEX, looking at it from a digital end user experience, but for the admin to do all this work, to be able to empower your lower level admins to be able to do more, that frees up your architects or your level two technicians to focus on other things. And not every time a ticket's open, that level one technician is just being a paper pusher. They open a ticket, oh, yeah, I can't do this, and push it on up the chain. This allows them to be able to do more without having to know every technology. Because if I'm an
Mhm.
IGL admin, I don't want, my level one technician going into the IGL console. Or if I'm the VMware admin or Nutanix, I don't want them to open up Prism. I don't want them to open up vCenter, but give them the power to do what they need to do from here and still get the job done. The workflow, everything that I showed you, there's an API command that you can do, but I have to know the API command. Look at my hand. I have fat fingers. I may fat finger something, and now I've messed things up. That's just a drag and drop. So again, being able to do more with less.
Yeah,
Sorry for taking up all the time, John.
very
No, don't
good.
be sorry, man. It's phenomenal, a phenomenal
Yeah,
job with the demo, and I said John and Roger for kind of helping to paint the picture and show the story. As Roger mentioned, we've a lot of years of experience with the platform and getting into all the bells and whistles, but it's really about kind of taking a step back, which we've realized with some larger enterprise accounts we've been working with, is because it can become overwhelming when you see all this data come in. It's really about understanding how is the organization, how are they currently handling the service desk workflows today? How are they troubleshooting? What are the top challenges? And tuning that experience so it's the most optimal. So, but yeah, Brian, I don't know if you want to go ahead and I guess close out, or if there's
I
any
think John
questions.
had one
yeah.
thing
I
he
got
wanted to share
one
on
more
the
Oh
thing.
ultimate
yes, of course.
experience.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And so one last thing on this access to all of these other solutions, right? You can also control through access whether they can break things too, right? So you can just, a lot of that stuff is read only, right? Just being able to get access to all those different consoles from one place. So I think when I hear that initially, I'm like, well, now they're still going to be able to break things because they can see it through ControlUp, but you can control access and everything in there too. But yeah, I have one more thing to show, which is we have a contest going on for Ultimate Experience. I'll let our CEO Jed Ayers say it best. He does a great job of doing this kind of stuff. But we're doing an amazing contest for a trip to go to the Sphere in Vegas, and I'll let you see his way of explaining it.
Hi everybody, Jed Ayers here in amazing Las Vegas. We're on a mission to revolutionize the world of DEX. And several of you watching this right now are going to find yourself cruising to the ultimate experience, culminating in the most amazing digital experience, the Sphere.
And that's because we're giving away a dream Las Vegas vacation. Round trip airfare for 2 to Vegas. VIP accommodations at the world-famous Las Vegas Venetian, award-winning restaurants, and topping it all off, tickets to an amazing show at the Sphere.
At ControlUp, we know experience, it's everything. It's what made us a leader in digital employee experience. DEX makes your business run better, faster, and more efficiently. This is an experience that's gonna blow your mind, and all you have to do to win this ultimate experience is sign up and show up.
Register for a short 21-minute meeting, and you'll be eligible to win ControlUp's Ultimate Las Vegas Getaway. In Vegas, you'll have a chance to meet with the ControlUp's entire leadership team, top customers, and partners for a deep dive into how you can gain competitive advantage with ControlUp's DEX platform.
It's time to get DEXy with ControlUp. Don't miss this opportunity of a lifetime. And one more thing. I'm personally going to pick you up in this beautiful vintage Cadillac when you win the ultimate experience.
Nice. That was exciting. We need Jed to announce the Panthers before they get out on the ice at the next game, man. I'm pumped up right now. I want to like punch through the wall.
I mean, you're gonna get Dexy.
There you go. So, John, why don't you walk them through here what they're looking at?
Yeah, so real quick, there's QR code. We can also follow us up with the website too. But yeah, if you just go out to the Ultimate Experience .vip and just register, put your info in there, and enter in the Choice Vegas code into that website. It'll get you registered for a chance to win that, and then we'll set up a meeting with you. So all you have to do is basically take a quick survey when you register. And attend a quick 21-minute meeting with us in Choice, and then we'll be announcing winners in August, and the event is actually happening in October. The dates and everything are on their website too. But yeah, you can scan the QR code, go to that website, and we can also send that out after this as well. So